Welcome to the Outsmart Burnout podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Zarya Rubin, a functional medicine doctor, an international speaker, and a burnout badass because I've been there myself. After walking away from my own high-stress medical career, I discovered how to break free from burnout to reclaim my passion, purpose, and joy. And now I'm here to help you do the same. From science-backed tips to time-saving hacks, and hopefully some aha moments that just might change your life. So sit back, relax, and let's do this. Today on Outsmart Burnout, I'm chatting with the amazing Kim Walsh, founder of Warrior Forward, a coaching and consulting business that's redefining what success looks and feels like for high-achieving women. Kim has a master's in educational leadership and is also a certified behavior change specialist and trauma-informed coach who knows what it's like to live in the messy middle, juggling big goals with family, identity, and everything in between. Her mission? To help women bounce back from burnout, ditch perfectionism, and build lives that actually feel as good as they look. This episode is going to be filled with wisdom, practical insight, and the kind of grounded encouragement every woman needs. So, Kim, welcome to the podcast. It's so great to have you.
Thank you. The intro was beautiful, as I just said, and we're going to work through all the tech glitches today.
Of
It's
course.
going to be fine. But honestly, Thank you. That was so gracious, and I'm super honored to be here.
Well, I am so excited to have you. I feel like we have a lot in common when it comes to empowering women and helping women overcome burnout and really kind of try to get grounded and rediscover the lives that they're meant to lead.
Yes.
So tell me a bit more about Warrior Forward. First of all, I love the name and I want to hear more about how you picked it, but also how did you come to find this path? Because we've chatted a bit and you have had 9 lives like me. You did music and performance, and now focusing on career and burnout and helping women. Tell me how that all started.
I mean, like so many female founders and entrepreneurs, it started from a place of desperation. Years ago, probably, oh my gosh, 15 years ago, I was teaching in public school. I was a music teacher, went and got my administration degree, and I was going through a terrible divorce, single mom of a 3-year-old. And my ex-husband was military. And so when we separated and got divorced, I was living in a state with my daughter that I didn't have any family in. And me being this wildly ambitious and defiant young woman was like, I don't need to move back home. I'm not coming back home. Like, I'm going to make it on my own. And
it's so hard.
It was really hard, but also I went through this phase or this season in my life where everyone kept referring to me as a survivor, like, you're such a survivor. And I tell this story a lot. It really pissed me off. I don't know why, but this like visceral reaction would happen. And one day it just popped out of my mouth and I was like, I don't want to just survive this. I'm not a survivor. Like, I'm a warrior. And it sort of just took on a life of its own. And so Warrior Forward originally started as a blog, and I was just kind of sharing my story in real time as it was happening. And it was just my way of journaling, or it was very cathartic. And it kind of got some traction. And I am also, or I was an athlete as an adult. So I started working a lot with other athletes. And so that's how the coaching started. It was performance coaching for athletes, nutrition coaching, mainly women. And that kind of evolved into kind of lifestyle coaching. And then, like so many of us, there was a really kind of traumatic season in 2003
Mm,
where my family, my son specifically, just really needed my time and attention. And because at that point I had left education, so I was working for myself, I was able to kind of cut back on a lot of things and just really devote my time to that situation. And then last year, again, the realities of life called me, and I sort of had so much time away from the hustle that I started
mm,
really leaning into healing, even though I was in the midst of a very challenging time. I had never really allowed myself the space, and I didn't have the space in previous years to really kind of peel back those layers. And so when I started taking on new clients and doing group coaching again, I was like, I just want to do this different because
mm,
I again, out of desperation, felt like I'm so over this like boss babe hustle culture mentality,
mm,
and there has to be a better way. So during that 2 year period where I was still working and owned the company, I was not as invested personally in it, and I wasn't taking on new clients. I really leaned into my own healing process and my own kind of evolution, and really getting more into somatic work and how things feel as opposed to how they look. And
mm.
so that's kind of where we stand now. It sort of was this natural progression that's always evolved alongside my life. Um, and I think that's how business should be, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it often starts from our own origin story and our own lived experience of why is this important? Why does this matter? Well, because I've lived it and I've been through it. And I actually don't want other women to go through what I went through and suffer in that way. And I think that burnout is becoming so epidemic.
Yeah.
It is, like you said, hustle culture and the badge of honor of busyness that
Mhm.
women often fall prey to. And what do you think is behind that in terms of high achieving women just driving ourselves so hard to the point that we burn out?
I love this question. And there are a million different answers to it that are probably right. And I think we as women have fought so hard for so long to have a seat at the table. And for, we'll say, my daughter, who's 19, she's grown up in a world where it's always been a possibility. But my mother, who incidentally is 70s, she didn't. And my grandmother obviously didn't. So even simple things as like having a bank account or being able to vote, it really wasn't that long ago that those things were put into place. So I think
Yes.
society, what I think as women, we have evolved and we are recognizing and creating a world where things can coexist. You can be a mom and have a successful career. You can be a stay at home mom and still have your own money or your own independence. You can work in corporate, you can work at home, you can, there are all these multitude of possibilities. Where the disconnect or the gap is, I think, is in society because we have went as women have evolved and the opportunities for women have evolved, but the demands and expectations that society passive aggressively and sometimes aggressively still shares and puts out into the world are they have not evolved.
Oh, the passive aggressiveness of capitalism and the patriarchy. Yes, we know.
So
It's
I think,
something.
yeah, I think that's where the gap is really for me.
Mm,
That's what I see is, the opportunities are endless, and women want to step into those roles and pull up a chair at the table, or I always encourage women just create your own damn table. Um, but
yes.
the outside influence and outside pressure has not changed. The expectations are
Mm,
still there. So thus you get burnout because you're trying to
mm,
do all the things.
Absolutely. So, along those lines, if this is so ingrained in terms of our society and the way things are set up for women, that it's so normalized that burnout has become so commonplace and epidemic, how do you work with women to educate them about burnout and how to differentiate? Is this normal? Is this not normal? This is something that I struggle with as well. And I often find that most people who are burned out do not realize they are burned out, and they will misattribute the signs and symptoms to other
Yeah,
things. It's
absolutely.
just being a mom. It's just I'm tired, or it's a busy season at work. So how do you try to make those connections for the women that you work with?
So the two most important things that we do right up from the jump is number one, reframing the concept of time and balance. Time, we look at
Mm.
it as linear. We look at it as, you have 24 hours or 31 days or 12 months or a quarter, right? So it's very linear. There's a beginning and an end. I think if we can shift the mindset around time so that it's fluid and evolutionary and transformative, and you don't have these like hard stops, that you're then able to manage your time in a very different way. So that's the number one thing I teach women is how to do that, is how to shift
Mm.
the trajectory and the concept of time. The other thing is the brutally honest acceptance or radical surrender that balance, as we see it in this very linear time and energy space of like, I need to do this much with work and this much at home, this, work life balance everybody talks about, it's not possible. It doesn't exist. And so radically surrendering to the concept it doesn't exist in terms of time is absolutely paramount. What does exist is balancing your time and energy in a way that is fulfilling. And so it's kind of that argument that fair and equal are not the same thing.
Mm.
I
Hmm.
often say we are raised and trained and taught to look at time and energy and balance as what's equal, but actually
Mm.
we need to look at the season of life we're in and figure out what's fair.
Totally, 100% agree with that. But I think it can be so hard for many women to, first of all, accept the idea that rest is a valid choice, that if you're not working yourself to the bone, if you're not super busy all the time, if you're not constantly do, go, 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 then it's not valid
Right.
and you're not being productive. That actually doesn't count.
Yeah.
And how do we shift that narrative for women? And along those same lines, how do we shift the narrative that your identity is directly tied to how productive you are?
I mean, I think the first step is talking about it, having conversations like this and holding space for women to show up and say that they're they didn't think that this is what it would feel like, or they've changed their mind about their career path, or they are feeling burnout. There's a guilt and a shame that is layered with that admission
Yes.
that I think even just talking about it um, helps kind of alleviate the breakdown of communication around it. I think the other thing that's worth noting is we live in a microwave world where everything is just instant. And
Hmm.
we, as women, as doers, type A personalities, like I got to check off all the boxes and do all the things and manage everything. We inadvertently often want instantaneous results and change. And
Yeah.
the honest truth is, you can't take a 60-minute workshop or a 3-day course or do a 6-week program and eliminate, like completely alleviate burnout and overwhelm and stress in your life. Like that's not the goal. So I think if you come into a workshop or a course or a coaching container, and you recognize that the goal isn't to remove stress. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's bridging that gap. The goal is to reconnect with who you are and why you're doing it, and making sure that is connected to your core values and what you want your life to look like. And so once you can tackle those major kind of pillars or those foundational pieces, you're then given the tools and the mindset and the skills to work through those stressful times, work through the burnout, and recognize it before it comes. Um,
Mm.
so I think sometimes women go into things thinking, I'm just gonna, I'm stressed and I don't need stress. I think that's kind of how
Mm.
self-care originated, is that, oh, you're stressed, go take a bubble bath, go out to dinner
Right.
with friends, go on a retreat, go to the spa. And those are all tangible items, but they're
Yeah.
not addressing the root cause, and they're not providing you skills and tools to actually manage it or address it.
No, no, and they're also additive.
Yeah.
It's like, when do I have time to schedule the spa? How do I fit in self-care? It's too stressful.
Yeah.
That's often what I teach as well, is that it's doing less, not
Yes.
necessarily adding to your plate. But what are some of the more insidious or sneaky signs of burnout that you help your folks recognize? Because I think that this is really key, is that we're not recognizing it. We're just sort of dismissing all the things, and like, oh, I'm not that tired, or I can keep going, or I just need a vacation, and then I'll be fine at some point down the road. But what kind of interesting signs or symptoms have you noticed among folks that you work with
This is
that people
such
might not associate with burnout?
it's
Yeah.
such a good question, because I think we're so busy, like the world is so busy and so noisy, that we don't recognize the signs. We're waiting for this big like
Right.
crash and burn, like have to
And by
start.
then it's like too
Yeah.
late. Yeah.
Mhm. Um, So one of the things that I always do with clients immediately is we look at their to-do list and their calendar, and however you're managing your day to day, and break things up into three components. There's your non-negotiables, your responsibilities, and then what I call tasking. And there's a
Ooh.
process through that, because then we take those chunks, puzzle pieces, and we either delegate, delay, or delete. And so I think kind of really auditing how you're spending your time um, really allows women to just visually see, like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I was spending 3 hours checking email or whatever it is. The other piece that I think is even more important is recognizing the nervous system, and really being aware of how your body is responding or what you're doing when you are getting to those kind of triggered points. So for
Mm.
example, everybody scrolls on social media, like everyone. And I think
Yep.
that's fine. It was meant for entertainment and built originally for connection and community, and I think that's great. But I also think there is a time and a place for it. I think we have gotten so inundated, and I'm guilty of this. I have to really check myself, because I can lose so much
Same.
time just scrolling. What's
Yeah.
tricky about that is I'm not sitting here scrolling for 3 hours. I may do, 10 minutes 10 times a day. That still adds up to a huge chunk of time.
Yeah.
What we're finding is in the world of somatics and nervous system is you're not just connecting with your friends anymore. I mean, I have 6,000 follow, like I don't know 6,000 people.
Hmm.
And again, it's fine. It's all well and good. But what you're actually doing is escaping something. Your brain and your nervous system are so overloaded that it's mindless. It's no different than watching television when television first came out.
Hmm.
So recognizing the mindless tasks that you're doing, that you wouldn't normally be doing. So there's a difference between I scroll too much and I just need to address that. And I used to go to bed and read a book for 20 minutes before I went to sleep, but now I'm just scrolling. So those differences can be very key in really kind of recognizing patterns of behavior that are going to help you kind of address and get a handle on.
Yeah, I mean, what I try to impress upon folks is that all of this social media exposure to terrible things, to the news, to nasty comments, this and that, it is the equivalent of, in ancient times of being chased by a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
Your nervous system doesn't know the
Yeah.
difference. And it's just like, it's all virtual. It's not real per se, but your nervous system doesn't know that. And you are still exposing yourself to all of these cortisol spikes and these intense stress hormones that take a toll on you after a while. So it's a double-edged sword because it's like it's an escape and it's also, somewhat toxic.
I think the other thing I often talk with women about, and both in coaching or even just in speaking engagements, if you are living for the weekend and you are living for your next vacation, and this started, I was
Yeah.
working a lot with educators, which is where I was. And I was talking to a room full of teachers, and I just casually asked, how many of you know how many days of school there are left? And hands, like literally the whole room.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some humor in that, but also why? Why do
You're
you know that?
counting the days.
And like, there's so much to the world of education. That's a whole other podcast. But the point was, what do you need to change about what you can control that you are literally not counting down? I only have 54 more days until I can go on vacation. That is not a way to live the majority of your life.
No.
So those really kind of bold and hard questions, and if you feel yourself like, oh my gosh, I just can't wait till Friday. And there are some Mondays that are the Mondayest Monday of all the Mondays.
Sure.
And I get that. But if every single week you're like dying for the weekend, that's a pretty distinctive clue that you're on a slippery slope.
That's a really great one. I like that one. I used to call it living my life on layaway. So I just I kept thinking, well, someday I'll be happy or
Yeah.
someday I'll be rested and relaxed. But I had no indication of when that someday was going to arrive. And the reality was it probably wasn't going
Right.
to if I had kept going on the path that I was on. But it can be so hard to recognize that and break free of it. So I love that tip about if you are living for the weekend, you might have to check in with yourself and your schedule and the particulars of your circumstances and what needs to change. And again, I love the comment about what can you control?
Right.
What is within your control to change? Is it your hours? Is it your particular job description or duties? Is it moving to another department? Is it, how can you tweak things without necessarily, I don't always recommend tossing a grenade to your life like I did, but
same.
there are other ways, right? Yeah. So I love that. So you've mentioned nervous system and somatics, and I know that you have some trauma-informed training and somatic training, and I am fascinated by all of this as a trauma survivor myself, and I've delved into that world so much and I'm really intrigued by it. So can you talk a little bit more about that and how that lens shifts your approach to burnout and recovery?
Yeah. Oh, yes, thank you for asking. I am at, I say, the beginning stages of my trauma somatic informed and all of that. And when I say beginning, I've been learning about it and applying it to my coaching practice and the business for almost like a year and a half. I have been applying it to myself, I'll say dabbling, for maybe 2 or 3 years, but really just I linked up with Carrie Ford, who is my coach, and she is certified. And so I'm working with her, and she's connected me with other people. And I think what really was the light bulb moment for me was I had done years, and I mean years, decades of talk therapy. And it was great. It was fine. I was on medication at a season in my life. And so I welcome that and encourage it if people need it. But I couldn't get past a point. And then I started to feel, and I'm a pretty introspective person anyway, as a creative, I think we all are.
Mm.
I was resisting therapy because I was like, I just don't want to talk about this anymore. I feel like every time I'm talking about this, I'm just bringing it all up. Like I'm just ripping off this Band-Aid, but I couldn't say that I felt that I was healed. It just felt like it was like part scar, part open. And so I had followed Carrie Ford for years, and we both were in the same kind of athletic world. So lots of interconnections. And I finally sat down with her, and it was the safest and most seen and most heard 90 minutes of my life. Like she just, and as we talked, I started to realize it's not about talking about the trauma. It's about gently and slowly, in a very kind of systematic, methodical way, revisiting the feeling behind it, and then allowing yourself the space and applying like the tools to move beyond that feeling. So in essence, I always say like you're expanding your capacity for the feeling that you had. So you don't go in super deep and start feeling all the feelings of the most traumatic experience in your entire life. That's not what it is. You're you're methodically feeling a little bit more of it every time. And sometimes you're not even talking about, it's not even about the traumatic experience. I mean, I've had sessions and done coaching with women, and they're talking about the pressure of work. And when you really peel it apart and you go into those feelings, it's about perfectionism, which comes from childhood. And so you're expanding your capacity to feel that in conjunction with having the skill set and the mindset to reframe it and move beyond it.
Oh,
And so
girl, you are speaking my language.
They always say, the body remembers, and
The
that's
body
where the
keeps the
nervous,
score.
yes, that's where the nervous system piece comes in, is that it remembers how you feel, and the subconsciousness of your brain, it remembers that experience. So it's not just talking about it and getting to a place of like forgive and forget, or forget and forget and forget and hate. It's really about expanding your capacity to have stressful and traumatic situations not impact you in the way that they had in the past. And you find the connections. It's sort of just like the spider web of connections to all of these stressors in your life. It's really quite extraordinary. And so I threw myself I was like, I have to be able to utilize this and teach this and talk about it and coach about it, because it it's like the missing link. We have
Absolutely.
CBT components of our coaching, we have DBT components of the coaching, we have behavior change therapy and a holistic wellness approach, and then this was like, oh, this is the last thing. And for me, what I find with the women that I work with, it's the most necessary.
Yeah, I could not agree more. It's someone who has done a lot of somatic work myself, and it's so powerful. And it's like you said, the memories and the trauma and the experiences are stored in the body, and then they can be accessed and healed through the body as well,
Yeah.
in ways that bypass some of the blocks that we have when we just cognitively talk about things.
Yeah.
And we're maybe not sure why we're stuck. in a
Right.
certain pattern or a certain set of behaviors that really goes really deep. So yeah, I absolutely love that. Do you have any somatic tools or practices that you could recommend for women who have struggled with burnout and chronic stress? Anything that we can take with us today from this chat?
The one thing I would recommend, and it's funny, I just had a meeting with Carrie recently and we were talking about this, is if you're really in a place where you want to make long-term sustainable change, find a coach or find a course or a program that's legit. Because again, much like anything else in the world, it comes about, it starts trending. It's a buzzword. Everybody's talking about their nervous system and somatic work. And it's great. The conversation is beautiful. I love it because that spreads awareness. But you want to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a more stressful situation by trying to DIY it or things like that.
For sure.
Because the idea is to expand your capacity and release stress, not stress yourself out more and then you're like just overwhelmed. Many of us, again, in the microwave world, I'll just get on Pinterest and get some ideas and anything from like weight loss to cooking dinner
Yeah.
to it just becomes overwhelming.
Yes.
So that's my first piece of advice. The second thing I would say that listeners can take away is I offer what I call the alignment zone. And
Mm.
a lot of times I get people, they're just like, alignment, like, what the hell does that even mean? I don't even know what this means, right? Like, you don't walk around like, this feels aligned today. So it's really defining your own definition of alignment. And it should somewhere, it should have to do with what feels good and the season of life that you're in. And I always say that because, somebody said to me once, well, quitting my job would feel good. If you have the resources to do that, by all
Yeah.
means, like go toot your own horn and quit your job. Is that the season of life you're in? So they have to coincide and seasons are situational, they're circumstantial, they're going to evolve. So when we do the alignment zone, it's all about radical honesty. It's about stopping yourself from pretending or telling yourself you like, I'll handle it. It's fine. Everything's fine. And protecting your time, your space, and your energy. So when people are like, I don't even know what alignment is it just about what feels good? It is, but it's also about protecting how you feel from day to day, day in, day out, month to month, like again, in this kind of fluid span of time. And so in the alignment zone, we always ask people, do your own energy audit. So this is what I would say to listeners. You can do your own energy audit. And so what fuels you and what drains you. And so you just go through your day, go through things that you do and ask yourself, does this fuel me or does this drain me? And a lot of times things that drain us are things we have to do. That's reality. That's adulting. Adulting stays adulting. But what you can do with that information and that knowledge, it's a power. And that you can say, okay, this really drains me. Is there a way I can delete it, delay it, or delegate it? If not, what is my timeline for how long I'm going to allow this in my life? Where can I shift my mindset around this thing that I'm doing? And so that it's not quite as draining. What am I doing that contributes to that draining? And so those are things that anybody could do on their own.
Yeah, I think there's like an awareness piece where you have to really tune in to what is going on, and you cannot just be on autopilot.
Right.
Because I always say, like, your check engine light is on and you're ignoring it and you're just driving and driving and driving, and that you might be able to get away with that for a while, but eventually the engine's going to fall out of your car.
Right.
And then you're going to be in trouble. So yes, I love this zone of alignment. And talk to us a little bit more about the concept of alignment and sustainable success, which is something that you talk about a lot in your programs and work.
Yes. So again, it comes from my own experience of being incredibly successful, linking my identity to that success, and then completely burning out and it going away. And then you're left with like, well, what the hell now? And so,
Yeah.
in the program Eros, which is my signature program, it's 6 weeks intensive. We go through the alignment zone in great length. And what I think is powerful about it is number one, again, it creates a space where you don't have shame around it. There's not guilt. Like you can just come to the table and say whatever you want. So like my kids wear the hell out of me. Well, that's it. Yeah, mine too. But there, and then you work with it. So when I do work and talk about sustainable success, number one, you have to figure out what your definition of success is. And I think
So true.
often we as women are going after what we think it should look like. And we're, trying to keep up. I mean, they literally have a show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Like we're always trying to keep up. And our success should look like this or feel like this. And it's not always the case. Not everyone wants to make millions of dollars and own a business. Not everyone wants to be a surgeon. Not everyone wants to be a pilot. Not everyone wants to go to space. I mean, so you have to figure out what your personal definition of success looks like. So that's step one. And then in terms of sustaining that feeling, it's not about eliminating stress or trauma or difficult times in your life, because that's, again, not possible. But I always say you need three things to accomplish something. You need the mindset, the skill set, and the tool set. So when you have those three things, you are then able to sustain whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. If any of those three things are missing, and when I say missing, I mean like you don't have it. That's different than I'm not utilizing it, right? So if you don't have it, then you're not going to be able to sustain what you're trying to accomplish. So
okay, let's repeat that for our listeners, because I think this is gold. So you need the mindset.
You need mindset, skill set,
tool set, and tool set. So just talk us through those three things, because I think this is going to be like the golden nugget that people are going to walk away with. So mindset, what is that about? I mean, we hear the word all the time.
Right. So I'm going to break it down into something really, really simple and tangible, but it really, it has to do with whatever you're trying to accomplish. So as we chatted before, I went to college. I was a performance major, classical flute player. So I wanted to graduate with a degree in music performance as a classical flute player. That meant I had to have the mindset around receiving criticism, not having the same college experience that a lot of people did because I was always in rehearsal, being able to sacrifice certain experiences with friends because I had to practice, knowing that my college curriculum was going to look very different, accepting that at my particular college, all of campus was in one area and the music department was 4 blocks away by itself. So I wasn't even in the community, we'll say. So the mindset around that I had to have in order to meet my goal, which is get the degree. The tool set piece is I had to have all the tools. And if I didn't have them, I had the mindset to go get them. So that's why you have to have all three. If you're missing something, it's not going to work for you. So again, using my college degree as an example, very basic, I had to have a flute. I had to have, the knowledge of theory, or I had to go learn. I had to have the knowledge of, classical composers. I had to know about pitch and ensemble and, all of those things. I had to have all those tools, a
Mm.
tuner, a practice room, like just all of that. I couldn't just like whip out my flute on the corner and practice. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
So again, if I didn't have the tools, I had to have the mindset or the skill set to go get the tools. So
Mm.
then you have the skill set piece, and that's the piece that often people overlook is you have to
Mm.
be able to recognize when you don't have the skill or when you're outside of your element, and then do what you need to do to obtain the skill. And so, in order to do that, you have to have the mindset to go do it, that it's going to be hard. You're going to have to learn something or purchase a new program or whatever that is. And then you
Mm.
need to have the tools to implement the skill that you've now obtained.
Mm.
So, again, it's not linear. You don't get one before the other. You
Right.
have to recognize, do I have all three? And then I can apply all three no matter what happens in your life. No matter if there's a recession or COVID or
Yeah.
you get fired or there's a death or an illness or whatever. Those three things will keep you above water. They will keep you afloat. If you're missing one of those three things, you're going to struggle. Now, that's not to say that we're always applying those three things. Sometimes
Right.
that's where coaching comes in, and you get somebody that can have a courageous conversation and say, right, but you're not really doing what you know you need to do. And so
Mm.
then it's like, okay, so there's some accountability there too, for sure. But that's my belief. You have to have those three things to sustain something. Otherwise, you might have a little bit of success, whatever that is, defined by, but you won't be able to last.
Fantastic. Well, this is a perfect way to wrap up this amazing conversation. If there's a listener here who's tuning in and they're feeling depleted, they're feeling burnt out or at a loss in terms of their identity and all of the things that we've covered, they don't know where to start. What's one simple step they could take in the right direction to start reclaiming their identity, themselves, their energy levels, their alignment, like all the things that we've talked about?
Yeah,
Where do they start?
I would say start with doing an energy audit. Anyone can do
Mm.
it. You can do it for a day. You can do it for a year. It just depends on kind of, again, where your capacity is, like how much information you want to download. And then kind of figure out what you can control within that audit. I think that's something super simple. And then if you decide and you find that, you know what, this is not the way that I want to live my life. And time is precious and it's short. And I don't have the skill set, or I don't have the tools, or I don't quite understand and have the mindset to make a sustainable change. Then find a coach, a program, and invest in yourself. It's not about wasting money or paying for something. You're investing in your future, in your happiness. You're investing in your legacy. Because I mean, for me, I'm not here to build women. I'm here to build their legacy.
Mm.
And so again, that's a mindset that I have, that I firmly believe in. So I think those are the two first places to start.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kim. This has been an incredible conversation. I hope you all loved it as much as I did. Kim's insight into burnout and balance and building a life with intention is exactly what we need, the kind of wisdom we all need more of, whatever season of life we're in, but especially if you're a woman in midlife, if you're a perfectionist, if you're struggling, this is just the conversation we needed. So if you want to learn more about Kim's work or connect with her directly, so where can we find you? We can find you on Instagram
On
at
Instagram,
Warrior Forward.
Warrior Forward, yes. And then you
Okay.
can go to my website is kimwalshco.com/home. And
Okay.
You can get in the newsletter. There's podcast link there. We have Warrior Forward, the podcast. So lots of ways that you can just kind of be in the room and surround yourself with this kind of conversation, just to be part of the community.
Fantastic. I'm actually going to be on Kim's podcast coming up.
Yes,
So I'm excited about that. We're going to continue the conversation. So as always, if this episode spoke to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with a friend, or leave us a review. It helps the show reach even more women who are ready to outsmart burnout. Until next time, remember, burnout isn't your destiny. It's your wake-up call.